Okay, the sharing. Okay, we were speaking about what are the skills the teachers, as teachers, we have to develop in children. We spoke about two already, and the third one here is discovering the personal support needs. I told you autonomous learners need to know what is the support system or the additional resources which they require in order to achieve their goal or in order to achieve the objectives which they have set for their own learning. So learners will need to know how they can access and monitor their progress. That they have to know where they can access for the knowledge. Okay, all this can be made easy for them, and also we can optimize their learning through the use of various learning management systems. So as teachers, we have to have the knowledge of various learning management systems, and then how to optimize and help them to learn on their own, and then how to provide the support which they require in order to gain the knowledge, and in order to create their own learning environment, in order to evaluate their progress, okay, and then to monitor their own progress. Okay, all this we have to design over the learning management system which we adopt and deliver the content. So on these learning managements also, these systems also provide some assessment tools which are very easy use and very user friendly for the learners, where assessment tools like questionnaires can be used. There are many quiz which can be adopted into the learning management systems. There are learning management systems which provide various devices to present animations or create animations there itself, and we can deliver content in diversified ways for learners who have different learning styles. As I spoke about, we also know about the universal design for learning, which we develop when we are thinking of planning for diversified learners. So this universal design for learning can be easily prepared when we adopt these learning management systems. Okay, and there are numerous evaluation tools, and the way in which we present the evaluation, the way in which we provide, what do we say, the content, the way in which we provide reinforcement for the students in order to make his learning motivated to continue further. All this is quite easily done over the learning management system. So as teachers, we have to have knowledge of this, and knowledge of how to use these systems or applications, and help learners to control their own learning. That should be made possible. So this is the third skill which we have to also teach the students to discover what support system they will require. Then this is what this universal design for learning, that is UDL, is very what do we say, easily prepared over using these learning management systems. Then the fourth application or a skill which the learner requires to be an autonomous learner is working and communicating well with others. Okay, so autonomy we know is independence, but it doesn't mean that he has to work alone. Independent learning doesn't mean that he is a single learner. He is learning not alone, but with required collaboration with his peer group. So collaboration and teamwork are very essential. Then the fifth skill which he requires is being very well organized. Okay? If he has to be organized, then he has to have certain organizational skills. What are the organizational skills which he has to have? That organizational skills.
Hello.
Into. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
हाँ नमस्ते सर. सर ऐका ना.
Hello? If others are speaking, please mute your speakers.
Okay, can continue, ma'am.
Okay. And then time management skills are very vital if he has to be an autonomous learner. So this we can help him out by adopting the learning management systems and together having an integrated mentorship program. So keeping 4 to 5 or 6 students with one single teacher who will act as a mentor, and this mentor will help the learners on achieving their targets, and then helping discuss with the peers when they have discussion forums. So this can be done by the teacher using learning management systems. So what are the strategies we can adopt in order to promote this learning autonomy? Though they are autonomous, ultimately they are dependent on teachers, because it is the teachers who have to create the learning environment where we can develop learning autonomy, first of all, in students. So we have to, when we are preparing the students for gearing up to this learner autonomous ecosystem of learning, then we have to create opportunities for them where they will feel that learning is very naturally happening to them. So this natural feeling and then the natural satisfaction of the urge to learn something new, which is intuitive in all the learners, this has to be, opportunity for them has to be created. So if we have to create this supportive learning environment, how do we create? One thing is making content in such a way that the content presentation in these learning management systems will keep the learner engaged. And then to provide the right tools to these learners. We have a number of digital tools available. So these digital tools can be appropriately selected according to the age group of the students, according to the abilities of the students. And these tools need to be rightly chosen for the learners and adopted into these learning management systems. And we can develop e-learning courses. We can either develop these e-learning courses, and there are so many platforms like MOOC, which give opportunities for teachers to host their e-learning courses. But we teachers have to have sufficient knowledge about it. We should have sufficient skills to develop these e-learning courses and make them available to the learners. We should be able to incorporate relevant and also entertaining material. That is what we say. The content material should be presented in such a way that it has to keep them engaged for a long time. So it has to make them enjoy their learning experience. There are so many strategies like gamification and all that which can be adopted into the presentation of the educational content. And we have to make them learn in their own pace when we are adopting this learning management systems. Then there is something called the user-generated content. Okay, this user-generated content has a very great effect on the viewers of this content. So we can harness this power of the user-generated content. And this user-generated content can be made more authentic if while generating this content, artificial intelligence applications can be used. Now, most of us may be already using these artificial intelligences like ChatGPT, Bard, and all that. So this will help in enhancing the learning outcomes. What is user-generated content? We will just see in 1 or 2 slides. Then building the culture of learning. Okay, when we speak about learning, we build a culture of learning itself within the student. So this will help. Then use of the right learning management system. There are numerous systems which are available. Using the right tools in the right applications in the right learning management system will provide e-learning and make e-learning to the learners' needs. Okay. So what is, I thought I will go a little in detail with the user-generated content. Now, what is user-generated content? There is sufficient content which is already available. The users of this content, again, with the use of some social media, maybe it may be Twitter, it may be their Facebook, it can be Snapchat, okay, it can be any other forms like YouTube. We know people who have accessed some knowledge or some form of content want to again post it in their view, okay, or in their perspective. So what they do, they use these social media accounts and then again represent the whatever content they have access to in their perspective. So we know there's a research which has shown that consumers are 83% more likely to trust whatever their peers have propagated. Okay? So this power of trusting the peers can be used when we are using this user-generated content, when we are presenting the content over the learning management system. So access to and use of ready-to-go learning management content. Instead of just always trying to develop the content for ourselves, if there are already ready-to-go content which is already available, if there are resources which are being presented by other subject matter experts, we can readily adopt them. But when we are adopting them, we should follow certain rules. We should have the knowledge of this CC licensing which we have. And then what are the different types of licensing for taking this e-content and all that. Looking into this, we teachers can use these e-learning materials and we need not always go from scratch to give access to. So we can give access to the learners for content developed by the experts. Okay. So how does this learning management system support the autonomous learning? One thing we all know that it is readily available because students and whoever is the learner has a mobile device readily available with him anywhere he goes and at any time. So this power of readily available devices, electronic devices can be used in order to deliver our autonomous learning through the different learning management system, because using tablets and mobile devices and desktops is easily accessible for students. So this flexibility enables learners to learn anytime, anywhere, which we call ubiquitous learning. And learning management systems are learner friendly. Okay, so they ensure that learners spend time learning instead of wasting their time. So learning management systems engage learners in the learning activity itself. So this increases the engagement of the learning time of the student. And then LMS provides self-direction by creating catalogs where learners can select the courses for themselves to be, whichever they wish to complete. They can choose the topics or the subjects they want to find. Okay, so this catalog will help the students to be self-directed. Then learning from others, this learning management system encourages social learning. Now, when we are speaking about constructivist theories of learning, we know how much effect or impact this social system or the peer group system has over learners. So one forum can be created on the learning management system. This will encourage social learning. And then they can keep engage themselves in the discussions by asking questions, by sharing whatever knowledge they have with their other group. This is where we can also harness the power of the user-generated content here. So in order to promote autonomy among learners, we can use this learning management system very effectively, and this will also empower the learners and then make them more responsible in learning, and then will also create more learning opportunities among students. So how technology helps in building learner autonomy? These technological tools or digital tools increases the effectiveness of autonomy learning in 3 ways. One thing, it helps in connecting to each other. The second, it helps in collaborating with each other. The third, it helps in constructing learning. So I'll just try to briefly name one or two tools which we can use in order to harness the power of these digital tools in order to promote autonomy in learning. One, we know this video and audio conferencing tools like which we are using today, that is the Zoom. We have the Google Meet. This will help people to connect across to other people or peers who are across the world. So this opportunities which these tools will provide for learners to connect from different cultures will broaden their learning perspectives and also will enrich their learning. So these connecting tools are effectively used. Then collaborating tools also can be used in order to work with peers and also other community members who may be experts in the field. Certain digital tools which we can name here to share the learning which they have over online environment. We have tools like Padlet, we have tools like Edmodo, the Google Classroom. These provide a virtual space where students can document whatever they know. They can share their work. They can also communicate with others. Others means maybe community experts, or they want to seek any clarification with these experts. They can communicate. They can collaborate. Also, they can reflect on their views also over these discussion forums. And the third part which these digital tools would help in autonomous learning is constructing learning. This pointing learners in the direction of the resources which are available online. Okay, so this will help them to find online support system so that they can construct their own learning. Constructivist theory always says that learning happens only when it is constructive. Means the teacher has the role of only what do we say, scaffolding. Means building new, helping them or facilitating them to learn something new based on whatever they already know. So this construction of knowledge can happen by finding online support system, and this can effectively happen through various help pages and community platforms. To name a few, we can have the GitHub, we can have the video tutorials which are numerously found on the YouTube. So there are different online sources which students can access. And speaking about other tools for learning, evaluation can happen even through assessment. So we always, when we speak about assessment, we speak about three things: assessment of learning, assessment for learning, and assessment of learning. Okay. So when we speak about this assessment of learning, it is a summative assessment which we do. Whatever they have learned, we are trying to assessment. And when we say assessment for learning, then when we say assessment for learning, it is a formative assessment which we are speaking about. So these evaluation tools like Quizlet can also be used as learning tools. Okay, they can also be used as games, and through gamification strategy, we can use these tools to construct or to enhance the learning of students and make learning an enjoyable experience for the students. Then there are again digital tools or artifacts where they can create whatever they have learned, and they can create an online journal of their own. They can share a video response of their own, and something they want to say, they can say through an animated figure, through the use of various digital tools like Penzu, which can be used for creating an own online journal, and Flipgrid could be used, and Woki could be used in order to share their knowledge or their views through an animated figure. So through when learning which has evolved called the autonomous learning model. So this model was developed by George Betts and Jolon Thresher with the aim of producing learners who are independent and self-direct. So when we adopt this autonomous learning model, we are creating autonomous learners. Initially, when they came out with this model aimed at only targeting gifted and talented students. But now it has been used in general with all types of students. It helps in developing an alternative learning environment. Okay? So this helps in creating lifelong learners over the long run. So the autonomous learning model, the aim of it is to develop lifelong learners. There are, briefly, I would just mention about the 5 dimensions which are there in this autonomous learning model. The 5 dimensions are what we call as the phases when we have this 36 models which were developed by Bruce Joyce and Marcia Weil. Here they speak about those as dimensions. The 5 dimensions are, the first dimension is orientation, where the students are provided. Then the second dimension is on the individual development. Students here develop skills, attitudes, and also concepts they need to, which they will require if they have to become lifelong learners. The third dimension is enrichment. Here, we concentrate on students learning the content outside of their prescribed school curriculum. So, enrichment is about adding on to whatever curriculum is already prescribed and students developing an additional curriculum for themselves. So this is what happens in the enrichment dimension. Then a seminar is about the 4th dimension in this learning model, where students will demonstrate their ability to be learners and also to work together in groups, but facilitated by a teacher. Then the 5th dimension is about the in-depth study, where the student will go deep into the content whichever they have learned, and in their quest to become lifelong learners through individual and project work, finding their mentors, and then learning and assessing their own learning. So these are the 5 dimensions which this autonomous learning model speaks about. And this is the diagrammatic representation of this model, which provides all the 5 dimensions and what is concentrated in these 5 dimensions. Okay. Here, if you see in orientation, it is understanding the abilities, then group building activities, the personal development, then the program and school opportunities, and all these. I am not going in detail into this model because this model itself will take a long time. And in practice, if we see, there is one attempt being made in Udaipur called the Shikshantar, which was started by Vidhi Jain. Okay, this concept called unschooling. This is also speaking about autonomous learning, which has been practiced. Earlier, this movement began with a network of just 50 families. Now it has grown with the 10,000 families getting involved in this unschooling program, where the curriculum differs. It's something different from homeschooling. It is not homeschooling, but then in various countries like Japan, Hong Kong, and New Zealand, the self-accessing learning centers and support groups have been started using relevant software and reading material, where they provide helping hand and support to children who want to learn on their own. There is another coding school which was opened called the 42, which was completely teacherless program. This was started in Paris. Now it has expanded to Silicon Valley, Amsterdam, Madrid, Tokyo, Seoul, and all such countries. This is again an approach to teach coding for children who are interested in it. So these are the practical programs which have begun and adopted this autonomous learning model, but with various other names. Okay. So I would just have a inner focus to our own self to think about how much we teachers are ready to provide autonomy to learning to students. How much we ourselves are geared up, or we ourselves are developing the skills in order to develop autonomous skills among students. Are we really competent for it? And even our teacher education programs, to speak about, are these teacher education programs really creating teachers and developing skills in them to develop autonomous learning skills? Because making them lifelong learners is the aim of education today. So what skills as we teachers do really have? And then it's really questionable if teachers do not want to make our learners autonomous learners. do not want to give learners the freedom to learn. That is what is the mindset of teachers today. We really forget the capacity or underestimate the capacity of learners to choose their own learning strategies. We underestimate the capacity of learners to design their own learning experience. We underestimate the capacity of learners to monitor their own progress. Okay? But it is time now, when we have these digital tools and learning management systems available to us, it's high time for us that we ourselves develop the mindset to provide autonomy to the learners and develop skills in learners so that they become lifelong learners, and then adopt these strategies where they take responsibility of their own learning. I think it's time to introspect and then develop those strategies first among ourselves. And our teacher education curriculum also has to gear up in order to prepare autonomous learners and teachers who can provide or use these technology or the learning management systems in order to deliver content over these learning autonomy system. Okay. I think with this backdrop of this learning autonomy and what do we say, the competence the digital world has today, or the opportunities which the digital world will give for the students today, I would move into a new theory which we are speaking about. The new theory which we know, when we speak about learning theories, we always speak about behaviorism. We always and when we say the newest theory is constructivism at the most, which we speak about. But there are other theories which have evolved in the background of these e-learning and use of internet for learning, or in this backdrop. So I would like to again share another PPT for you. Now, is this PPT visible?
Is visible, madam.
Yes, madam.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Now, this theory is called connectivism. It is a new trend in teaching learning. This is a theory which is for today's learners. Okay, today's learners and today's teachers, for learners of the Generation Z or the digital generation. This is what I will not go deep into the background of this. One background which I would just tell is it's because of the new technology which has come into the field of education sector, that intensive efforts are being made in order to move over to a real-time synchronous classroom on virtual online modes of teaching. So with this background, where we want online modes of teaching being synchronous and real-time, this theory has evolved. And even our national education policy has recognized the importance of leveraging the advantages of the technologies and then the use of these digital platforms for ongoing ICT-based educational initiatives, so that we can be able to realize the objectives of education very easily. Okay. And today's educational objectives and thinking skills, everything is changing. What are the changing goals? The goals of education today, I told you, is about developing students who are good in scientific temper, students who have a scientific attitude, students who are not just creative, students who are open-minded, who can have deep thinking skills, who can effectively question, just not accept whatever is given to them, but question and effectively question, who can effectively inquire into things and gain knowledge. And then even our national education policy speak about integration of all the content areas. So these are the goals of the educational system today. So in order to achieve these goals of the education system of today, different instructional methods have evolved. So we don't have the usual conventional method of teaching. Even just a demonstration method is a very old method now. If we think about inquiry-based learning, is a new method of teaching. And we have models of teaching, which I just spoke about, the Bros, Joyce, and Marsha Wheel, which concentrate on developing specific abilities in children like creativity, problem-solving ability, critical thinking, and all such things. And then we have numerous constructive strategies. And newly, we have blended learning techniques which have come in. These blended learning techniques, again, are adopting these connectivist theory principles there. So all these new methods are leading to deeper and more sustained learning. Okay, and learning which students can transfer to new situation and solve problems. Okay, so what's happening to learners now in this digital world? There is abundant information available to them. Okay, and where to learn is more important than how to learn for them, because there are numerous sites available. So where to go for authentic knowledge, where to search for information, that is more important. Now, Bill Gates says that the present education system has become quite obsolete. He speaks about the American high schools, which are becoming quite obsolete. By naming them obsolete, he doesn't mean that they are broken or they are flawed or underfunded. What he means by being obsolete, he says that though they are working as they are designed, they cannot teach students what they need to know today. That is what he says. Means whatever is required for them today, that the system is not able to teach the students. That is where he means by saying that the schools are obsolete. So keeping this, I will not go in detail with the learning theories, because all of us know the three popular learning theories in the 20th century was behaviorism, cognitivism, and constructivism. And with these theories have become old now, and there is a new learning theory which was evolved. This new learning theory has evolved because of the influence of ICT. And this new theory which has evolved has the basis of the older theories of behaviorism, cognitivism, and constructivism. Keeping these theories and whatever these theories propound, ICT theory or this connectivist theory has evolved. Okay. These theories, behaviorism, cognitivism, and constructivism, they aim at describing the learning principles and processes. Okay. So, but for today's learners, these existing theories do not anticipate what is the need for the learners in the future. So, what these three theories are missing? One thing, knowledge is rapidly evolving. That rapid evolvement of knowledge cannot be incorporated by the use of strategies which are based on these three learning theories. So we need a new learning theory. These three learning theories do not, they say that knowing is important, but now at present, having the knowledge ready in our brains is not important, but being able to continue to learn is important. Okay. Now the core foundations of knowledge is shifting from the content part to the availability of that knowledge through media. So the shift of the core is from knowledge itself to the availability of the knowledge on the media. This shift is not addressed by the three old theories. And there is increased interplay of the organization and the individual. So these theories, what they state is, they state that learning occurs inside a person. Excuse me for a second, just I will be back. Just for a second, I'll be back.
Okay.
Sorry for the interruption. Yeah. Okay, what these learning theories were missing, the existing 3 learning theories, these theories concentrated and said that learning occurs inside a person. What they failed, this is something to understand for us. What they failed to account was the external learning. Means learning happens from outside. Okay, that they missed. I will not go in detail with what these theories speak and all that. Only thing was what we taught and learned was behaviorism, which said that there is a response to a stimuli. The bonding which happens between this response and stimuli was the learning which happens. Okay, so the desired outcomes are created through this response and stimuli. Now, cognitivism spoke about learning like a computer model, where there are inputs and then we manage with the short-term memory and encode it for a long-term retrieval, like how we have the information processing model that was spoke about in cognitivism. Then came constructivism, which said that learners are active learners, and then learners create their own knowledge in the process of understanding the experience. Whatever learning experience is provided to them, they create knowledge on their own based on whatever knowledge they already have. And they are not empty vessels who come for learning, but they are active meaning makers. That is what constructivism spoke about. And that is where it spoke about ZPD, which is called the zone of proximal development, where the teacher's role was to facilitate and arrange for a zone, arrange for an experience where there was a little gap between what they already knew and then scaffold it to what new learning the teacher has to provide. But again, the planning of the experience which the teacher has to provide, everything was done by the teacher herself. This is what was the zone of proximal development, which importantly was spoken by constructivism. And there is another abbreviation called the MKO, where the teacher is not called the teacher, but the teacher is said to be the more knowledgeable other. So other than the student, somebody who is more knowledgeable is the teacher for the student. So briefly, this is what about constructivism. Now, keeping all the principles of learning which these theories have given, there is a new theory evolved called connectivism. This theory aimed at meeting the 21st century digital learning environment. And this theory was given by Simons. He wrote an article called Learning as a Network Creation. This he wrote in 2005. And Downs again wrote an article called An Introduction to Connective Knowledge in 2005. These two publications actually garnered this increased attention in the, this was actually published in the blogosphere actually in 2005. Okay. This later on gained the status of a theory for the digital age. Now, when we speak about the two purpose for the need for development of a new theory, Kerr in 2007 said, this new theory builds on the old theories without discarding them. That is very important. They don't discard the views of the older theories, but they build on whatever is being given in the older theories. But new developments have occurred which cannot be explained by the older theories. So that is why this new theory was required. Why this new theory of connectivism came about? One thing, self-organization was valued and also was in the learning environment, self-organization was made possible. Social networking, then networks made the global world into a smaller world, and decentralization. And learning happened in a nebulous environment. So the capacity to know more is important than what is now known. So with this background and giving the control to the learner, so learner controlled and learner driven learning. With this backdrop, this theory of connectivism emerged. As I told, this theory is for the digital age, which was proposed and developed by George Simons. He asked a question in the beginning. What was the question? How do the practices of the educator change in the network environment, where information is already readily accessible? Okay, this is the question even today, which we have to put for ourselves, being teachers in a higher education also. Have we really changed our practices? We know information is readily accessible to our students, and they are always in a networked environment. Keeping all this, have we really changed our practice? Okay, a starting answer for this is, I think for most of us, it is no. At least if there a few of us have changed the practices, but not entirely, as connectivism speaks. So with this question, a newly developed theory started in the blogosphere in 2005. Okay, this theory basically states the core principle behind this theory is that learning occurs through connections within networks. So there are networks. Within the connections which these networks have, learning will happen in the future in this digital age. That is what he says. So this theory attempts to approach learning and knowledge in the context of the developments which have occurred in technology in the 21st century. Okay, so this impact which technology has on achievement and learning cannot be ignored, first of all. So this theory says that knowledge is distributed across a network of connections. Learning also will consist of the ability of the learner to construct and span these networks. Okay, and we know technology has impacted. I will not go in detail with all this. So connectivism presents itself as a new pedagogical approach. It affords learners the ability to connect to each other through social networking and also through collaboration tools. So this person who propounded connectivism, that is George Simons, he believes that learning is very complex, and we need to rely on networking of people, and also we have to increasingly store and access and retrieve knowledge and on the technology, and we have to motivate the use of whatever knowledge has been stored. So connectivism is a learning theory for today's learners and today's educational organizations, because information is changing quickly. Connections help us to stay current. Okay, so learning is actuated knowledge. What is actuated knowledge? Knowledge which actually can be applied when we require to apply it in our life. Many of the times we don't do that. We would have learned, but sometimes when we require to solve a problem, or sometimes when we require to find a solution, or when we have to improve on something which is already there, maybe we don't actuate the knowledge which we already have. So connectivism emphasizes on not just possessing the knowledge, but it emphasizes on actuating the knowledge or applying the knowledge whenever there is need for doing so. And in connectivism, it says, even if you don't know about it, that is not important. What you have to know is how to access, how to gain that knowledge, where to gain that knowledge from which source, and then how to actuate it. That is important according to connectivism. So in connectivism, they say that learning doesn't reside within the learner, but it resides in non-human appliances, that is in the networking which he has. Okay, so here learners have to develop different skills like evaluating the usefulness of information which they can get, and also evaluating the means of managing this information. Lots of information are available already, but how to manage this information, how to evaluate the usefulness of this information for whatever purpose he requires that information is a skill which is required under this theory. Okay. Now, according to this theory, what is learning? According to connectivism, learning is a process. Process of what? Process of plugging into new knowledge sources. So that is what is learning according to connectivism. Means the learner should know where to seek knowledge, okay, and which site to go for authentic knowledge. That is what is learning according to him. Then emotions and cognition play a role in actuation of the knowledge. So the emotional part also has a role, because the social networking is important in connectivism. Then functioning often requires acting blindly, as information is only revealed as action is taken. Now, idea behind connectivism. The idea behind connectivism, or the base for connectivism, is what Simon says, that knowledge exists everywhere and is accessed and organized by the learner. Now we know, earlier if we had to search for new information, we had to physically go to the library, search for books. It used to take such a long time, and many a times we couldn't even find an appropriate book where we could find an information. But for now, what he says, knowledge is there everywhere. Okay? It's we as learners, we should know how to access it and how to organize it. Okay? So he also says the connections that enable us to learn, the network connections which will make us learn, are more important than our current state of learning. So according to connectivism, accessing and knowing how to manage the information and knowing which network to have, which connections to have in order to know, that is important in connectivism. The word itself, connectivism, being connected over a network, always and everywhere, that is what is important for learning. That is what this theory says. Then his conclusions of connectivism, he says, it's his quote actually, our ability to learn what we need for tomorrow is more important than what we know today. Okay. So according to connectivism, what we know today is not important. Though it is important, he says what is more important is our ability to learn what we need for tomorrow, because we know knowledge, skills, everything is keeping changing continuously. Earlier as teachers, using the blackboard was a great skill which we had to learn. But today, use of the blackboard or the use of the colored chalk and all that has become obsolete now. We are using smart boards today. Okay, so we have to have the ability to, we know tomorrow's boards are not blackboards. In the classroom, tomorrow's boards are smart boards. So as teachers, we should have the ability to learn what we need for the use of the smart board, and what we are knowing today is not important. Okay, that is what is the conclusion of connectivism. That is how connectivist pedagogies also keep changing, and strategies we use to teach students also will change. That is how they are moving over towards self-directed autonomous learning under this theory of connectivism. Okay. So the real challenge here for any learning theory is to actuate the known knowledge at the point of application. Okay. So whatever knowledge we know, whenever we require to apply the knowledge, we should be able to actuate that knowledge. As knowledge continues to grow and evolve, access to what is needed is more important than what the learner currently possesses. Okay, this is something what I told in the beginning of the statement here. So more than what we currently at presently know, more than that, evolving and accessing what is needed in future is more important. Then, network of connectivism. Now, for learning or for providing a learning environment, networking is very important according to Simons. Network, he says, is equivalent to connection between entities. I will not go in detail with this, but this word node is very important when we speak about connectivist theory. And he says, what is a node? According to connectivist theory, a node is a learning community. Okay, what we speak of learning community means a group of learners who have common goals and then who have connection or networking between each other, who collaborate between each other, who discuss between each other in order to achieve that common goal. Is a learning community, and this networking is happening over the social networking sites, okay, electronically. That is what he says is a node. And he says there is competition existing between these nodes of information, and they are valuable than any other nodes. Okay. So strong and weak connections may be equally as valuable at some time. I'll not go in detail with this. I will just touch upon because time is quite short, and I'll touch upon the basic things which this theory speaks. See, he says learning can reside outside oneself. So where does it reside? Within the ever-changing networks. As the goal changes, the learning networking also changes. Okay. So connectivism is a theoretical framework for understanding learning. And in connectivism, the starting point for learning occurs when knowledge is actuated through the process of a learner getting connected to and also feeding the information he has into a learning community. Okay. So where does learning begin here in connectivism? He says learning begins when a process starts. What process is starting? The process of the learner getting connected to a learning community. Okay. And not only getting connected and accessing information which is already there in the learning community, but also adding and feeding the information which he has into the learning community. Okay, it is the sharing which happens, and the sharing and also profiting from what others have shared. This is what he says the beginning or the starting point of learning in connectivism. And also Simon states, what is a community? What is a learning community? It is a community, a clustering of similar areas of interest, which allows for interaction, which allows also for sharing, dialoguing, and thinking together. So what is a node? According to connectivism, a primary unit of learning. What is the primary unit? It's a learning community where all of them have similar interests, and then electronically, online, they are interacting, they are sharing, they are dialoguing, and also thinking together. So a learning community in this connectivist model is described as a node. A small node or a learning community can be a part of a larger network. Okay. So node is a basic learning community under this connectivist model. And this network can comprise of more than one nodes, which are linked so that they can share the resources which they have. So sharing of resources is much valued in this connectivist learning theory. Okay. And according to them, learning process is cyclical. Knowledge creation process is important, and not only knowledge consumption. Okay. What is learning? Earlier we thought consuming knowledge was learning, right? Consuming knowledge means there is some knowledge which the teacher used to transmit through various methods, and then we used to learn that knowledge. That was learning. But now today, according to connectivism, it's not just knowledge consumption, it is also creation of knowledge. Means you have to write, you have to publish, you have to share the knowledge. Others can add to the knowledge. Others can share their views. That is how knowledge gets adding up and created. Okay. So what is learning according to connectivism? Learning is knowledge creation process in addition to knowledge consumption. It doesn't limit itself to consuming of knowledge. Okay. And Simon asserts the ability to see connections between different fields, different ideas, and different concepts is a core skill which is required in networking. And learning, according to Simons, he says, it rests in the diversity of opinions, not that everybody has a similar opinion, not converging on a single opinion. Instead, having diversity of opinions helps in creation of knowledge. Okay. And then today, at present, since information is constantly changing, its validity and accuracy also keeps changing over time. So depending on the discovery of the new contributions pertaining to the knowledge, then accuracy and validity of the knowledge also goes on changing. So connectivism stresses on two important skills which are helpful for learning. The two skills which the learner has to have today is ability to seek out current information. See, earlier we used to say ability to get information, ability to transmit or learn the information somebody was giving us was learning skill. But today, according to connectivism, we don't just use the word information, we use the word current information. Okay, the information which is very relevant for the present time, because information we know knowledge is keeping on changing. So ability to seek out current information, and one more ability is to filter out the secondary and extraneous information, because there is huge source of information available. So the learner has to have the ability to filter out the secondary and extraneous information. These are the two skills which will help in learning according to connectivism. So if we have to simply say, according to Simon, the capacity to know is more critical than what is actually known. So the ability to make decisions on the basis of information that has been acquired is considered integral to the learning process. So decision making is integral to learning process according to connectivism. Now, moving over to the compatibility of connectivism with the formal education which we have today in our schools. There are three predominant pressures which are influencing and instigating the change in dissemination and retrieval of information. This is altering the formal educational landscape which we are having today. What are these three things which are initiating the change in the educational landscape? today's learners who are called the millennial learners, their needs are not being sufficiently met by our traditional training models of instruction. That is one thing. The second, that is the learner's needs. We know, we say when we speak about teaching or instruction, we say catering to the needs of the learners, okay? But that is not being met for today's millennial learners. Then the second thing is the growth of information. The rapid growth of information has necessitated new means through which we can navigate and filter the information that is available. So information growth and the need for filtering out and navigating through the information. Then the third thing, the advancing technologies are increasingly enabling the learners to connect to one another. Okay? The internet, the networking applications which are readily accessible, the physical devices which are readily accessible to today's learners are helping learners to keep connected. Okay? And then formation of knowledge network of their own. Every learner gets into a learning community, has his own knowledge networking. Okay? So these three are easily accessible and are changed to the learners of today. And this is altering the formal educational landscape which we are having today. And that is where connectivism is changing the pedagogy which this technological landscape is changing today. That is how we are moving over into, and you might have seen that UGC also is asking us to take over our traditional classrooms and shift towards 40% of online instruction. Okay, so we teachers have to gear up to all this. We teachers have to learn this pattern of connectivist pedagogy, and connectivist principles determine how we select the strategies for student learning. So which strategies are determined? Partly they depend on, we know these two aspects to determine the pedagogy or method we use, we have been following even today. That is, whichever strategy we adopt depends on the subject matter we are teaching. Okay, and it partly depends upon the nature of the learner. The same thing again we are adopting even here today in connectivism also. In addition to that, connectivist principles are giving new roles to the teacher. What is the new role? One thing is assisting the learner. Earlier we had to assist to give or transmit knowledge. Under connectivism, assisting the learner to build and make relevant connection in their learning networks. So the teacher has to assist in building a learning network and then assist the learner to get connected to an appropriate learning network. That is the new role. And if we have to assist them to build a learning network, then the teachers, as teachers, we ourselves have to be in a learning network first of all. Okay, how many of us are already having connections with learning networks, professional learning networks? Okay, that is again a question. So we have to first of all be part of a learning network, have sufficient knowledge of the existing learning networks, and then we should be able to assist learners in building these networks. Then the second new role is directing students to appropriate resources. We should help students to choose and access appropriate resources and also have access to other experts. Okay. Then the teachers should create experiences that will stimulate continual learning. Okay. We speak about lifelong learning. Lifelong learning and continual learning can be easily made possible through connectivism or adopting connectivist principles. So the changing role of the teacher is to facilitate knowledge for students, facilitating how in connectivism. See, facilitating under constructivism is different. Facilitating under constructivism is providing a scaffolding, arranging for a zone of proximal development and all that. Here, facilitating under connectivism is helping students to getting connected to a learning network, to an appropriate learning network, getting students to share their knowledge, getting students to access to experts in that particular field of subject. Okay, this is what is facilitating of knowledge in connectivism. So teachers need to fully understand the complexities which are involved in this new role and then help in knowledge building for the students. So today, the role of the tutor or the teacher will change entirely. And according to this, we are the more knowledgeable the term which was used in constructivism. And the network in which people communicate can be small, it can be very vast and wide. But the characteristics of this network to support knowledge will be diverse, they will be open, they will be autonomous, and they will be connected. So networking of knowledge, people, communication of these people over this, maybe a small network or a very big network, maybe people with diverse knowledge and skills, but there is autonomous sharing and there is freedom in getting connected and sharing of this knowledge when we speak about connectivist principles. And this, what do we speak about this networking and all that? Is it very new? It's not very new. As educators, if we have read about Illich in 1971, he gave an educational vision in the 70s itself. If we have read about him, we would have known this idea of what he called the community web in the 1970s itself. But one thing, there it was not online. But he had spoken about these community webs where students and teachers and subject experts with similar goals and similar seeking for knowledge formed their own networking. The same thing is being extended here, that idea, but over the online networking is concentrated here. So online networks come together as interest groups of autonomous participants, which Illich envisaged as webs in community setting, and he had aimed at bringing together local people together with learners. That is what he called people with knowledge. But the same thing now, the same idea being used on online networking. Now, I will not go into this. Now, just speaking about the principles, can I go on till what time? 1:15, is it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I think we have another 15 minutes. Okay. I will just touch upon this principles of connectivism. There are 8 principles of connectivism. One thing, learning and knowledge, they rest in the diversity of opinions. That is the first principle. They are self-explanatory, and whatever I've explained till now, the same things are being stated as principles. So I just briefly read over them. One thing, knowledge rests in diversity of opinion. Then learning is a process of connecting to the specialized nodes or information sources or the community webs, online community webs for that matter. Then learning may also reside in non-human appliances. Then the capacity to know more is more critical than what we currently already know. So the capacity to learn is important than what we are knowing now. Okay. Then the 5th principle here is nurturing and maintaining the connections. This is more important to facilitate continual learning. Okay. So on lifelong learning and continual learning is the one we speak about when we speak about the learning process. So if we have to be lifelong learners, we have to continuously maintain connections with the learning community or the node which we call according to the connectivist theory. And ability to see connection between different fields, different ideas, and different components is the core skill. If we have read about models of teaching, there is one model of teaching called the synetics model of teaching, which was given by Gordon. There he has this given out this idea. The word synetics itself says joining together. The meaning of the word synetics, which he termed, was meant joining together of apparently irrelevant things. Means just to look at, you may feel they are irrelevant. But if you try to search for similarities between what is irrelevant, you can come out with ideas and see something very much similar in irrelevant ideas also. Okay, so that is what is again here he speaks about in connectivism, ability to see connections between diverse fields, ideas, and concepts. That is the core skill. Okay, then currency, accurate and up-to-date knowledge is the intention of all the connectivist learning activities. Having access to up-to-date, accurate knowledge. Then, in the learning process, decision making is a part of the learning process. Decision making about what? Taking a decision about choosing what to learn. Who chooses what to learn? In the first session, we spoke about autonomous learning or learner autonomy, where the learner chose what to learn, decides what to learn. That is what is the decision-making process, which connectivism speaks about. Choosing what to learn, and the meaning of the incoming information is seen through the lens of a shifting reality. Okay? So, something which you think is right answer now may not be right tomorrow. Maybe certain alteration maybe have to be made. So taking decisions on that. So all this is are the principles of connectivism. How to teach in a connected environment? One thing we know, there is rapid development in technology. There is exponential growth in the use of internet along with the web too. Okay. So this has made possibilities for online and real-time face-to-face networks for people who are who are having expertise in a field and who are able to give guidance. So local or online tutors can provide knowledge, provide guidance about information, where to seek information, authentic information, and all that online. Learners will be at the center of the learning experience and not the teachers. And who are instrumental in determining the content of what is to be learned? The learners are instrumental in determining the content, in addition to deciding the nature and level of communication and who can participate in the networking. Now, when we think of the traditional classroom, if we have to implement the connectivist learning strategy, the traditional classrooms, we can bridge the gap between the new digital natives and our present education system. How can we bridge the gap, this gap in the traditional classroom? First of all, shifting from teacher-centered to student-centered pedagogy, then incorporating technology which is readily available, and not just providing information that students can access for themselves. So don't just provide information to them, instead guide them to where they can access information. Then incorporate and practice utilizing technology networks. The teachers themselves being a part of these nodes or networks, and also helping students to get into these practical sharing of information in these social networks. So utilizing and teachers for themselves utilizing, and also helping students to get into these networks. So this 5 strategies can help in teachers practically bringing these connectivist strategies into the classroom. There are numerous online digital tools applicable where we can use quizzes is one tool, TestMoz is one tool, Kahoot is one tool. I think most of us, even children nowadays, are using this Kahoot to even play with their friends who are apart, and then quiz out the questions and all that, where they have already stored questions which are already available, and also they themselves can create questions and put on this Kahoot also. Okay, so I was really shocked because I thought I learned something new and I wanted to teach one of my niece. But as soon as I told her, mentioned about this, she said, okay, we play with our friends with this Kahoot, asking questions of what was taught in class already. So these application programs can be used for online assessment, Socrative, Flickr, Slido, and all that. Even social media networks like blog, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, Telegram, all this can be used for discussion and collaboration. Then there are certain application programs itself specially designed for collaboration, like the Padlet, Google Forms most of us are using. Then we have the Padlet, we have the Nearpod, we have the Mentimeter, we have the Flipgrid. I'll not go in detail. I just want to just mention about them. If we have to try out all of this, we ourselves can just download these applications. They are self-explanatory. We can start using all of them in our classrooms also today. Then for presentation, there are numerous softwares. To name a few, Presentation Tube is one software where the presentation of the information through our PowerPoint and a video of what we are reading out could be recorded in the beginning itself and can be played. So one presentation software is the Presentation Tube. Then we have the Screencast-O-Matic. Then we have Screencastify. Okay, these are very useful to prepare recorded video lectures with the slide presentations. And we know how nowadays NCERT is developing infographics for the secondary school content. We know how helpful an infographic can be. One infographic can communicate the whole content which we, one small slide of an infographic can communicate maybe 10 to 15 pages of information which we have to give in a summary. Okay, so the infographics also can be adopted into these slide presentations. So these softwares for presentations can be effectively used preparing pre-lectured recorded videos, okay, with the PPT. And there are open education online resources which are freely available through our digital initiative of the Government of India. We have a National Digital Library. We have OLabs, which are electronic laboratories, which are available for students where schools are very remote and physical laboratories are not available. So labs, experiments in chemistry, experiments in biology, physics, all this can be done in a simulated mode in OLabs. Okay, you can just go to OLabs, and then this OLabs application has been developed with the help of this Amrita Anandamayi University also and the Government of India. Then we have this Khan Academy, Diksha, Swayam Prabha, Shodh Sindhu. Okay, so there are numerous online open educational resources which are available free. This can be used in order to apply strategies under this connectivism theory. Now coming to teacher education.
Madam, excuse me. That F4SSEE FOSSEE, no, it is FOSSEE program, something you.
Sorry, I'm not able to hear. Could you be a little louder?
One program after E-Diksha, I think you have mentioned in the previous slide, madam. FOSSEE it is, or what? Previous slide.
Sorry, Dr. Kavya Kishore, I'm not able to really hear.
It's okay, madam.
Could you be a little louder?
Madam, it's not me, it's Rajkumar is asking question.
Okay,
About
yeah.
this educational consultant is there, FOSSEE e-resources. He's asking about that.
About e-resources, is it?
No, that e-resources, open educational resources, you give the example about FOSSEE. F4SSEE.
That is not an open
Educational consultant, open
No,
education.
it's an
resource.
educational resource. Some of them are open educational resource, but some are not. Yeah. But as teachers, we can have access to numerous open educational resources, okay, which are quite free. That is what I meant. Now, our teacher education has to cater to developing these skills of adopting these connectivist strategies for our teachers. Okay, but our curriculum and approaches today in teacher education are not dealing with it. So our teacher education programs have to rethink on taking up necessary steps to cater to this connectivism based learning so that we can support the intended outcomes. Okay, and looking ahead, we as teacher educators, we have to think of developing certain capacities in trainees so that they will be able to provide education and prepare students for the future world which they will live in. The future world, we know, will be a digital world. The future world will be a world which will be constantly changing. Changes with technology will be very fast. So even upgrading of knowledge will be very fast. Okay, so we will have to prepare competent teachers who are competent enough to adopt these connectivist strategies. Okay, so to conclude, so in this online era, this theory of connectivism and research is much needed in order to develop certain strategies where these connectivism theories can be, views and principles of connectivism can be adopted, and then collaboration and networking on electronic media or social media can be harnessed to its fullest for the purpose of education. That should be the aim of teachers of today. And our teacher education programs, I think, should gear up to it. Our pre-service as well as our in-service, like how we have this program today, refresher course, faculty development programs also can address to this issue. So I think I've tried to give you a overall view of how learners will be for this digital world of tomorrow. They will be autonomous, and then we teachers have to learn to give them these skills of autonomous learning. We have to make them lifelong learners. Okay, and how connectivism as a theory can help. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, this is lunch break. Time up, ma'am.